So, like you said, my name is Ben Elan. I'm at the University of the University of Oregon InfoGraphics Lab. I've been working there for a year now. This is also my first NACIS conference. I want to thank you all for being so friendly and welcoming. I've had a great time so far, and I've learned a lot in the process. I'd also like to thank Joanna for giving me this amazing project to work on for the past year and for mentoring me along the way. On practical day, Joanna spoke about Priestley's chart, as you can see up here, and how she digitized and spatialized the data. I'll be focusing more on the user interface and the choices that we made when designing it. First, I'll give a little brief recap of the timeline. So the way I like to think about it is time runs along the top as the x-axis, and places are on the y-axis. There's 180 places, and they're divided into 20 different regions. The rest of the chart is made up of empires. They're different colors, and they're laid out all over. And there's different transitions as well between one empire to the next. There's vertical, they're all vertical, but there's some dotted, dashing, falling, rising. There's they're coded differently by Priestley to show a different rise and fall of empires. So once we took the chart and we digitized it, this is the digitized version. We had to make some design decisions for the UI. The first step was to let the user delve deeper into the actual chart itself. So we asked, what could we do to make that easier to look at? The first step was to add the zoom capability as well as a tooltip that shows on mouse hover exactly which year, place, and empire you're looking at. We also added some capabilities for filtering, which is just, you can think about it as like blinders coming down from the top and the bottom to filter by region, or from the left and the right to filter by a certain time period. We used D3 for most of this, by the way, and a lot of it is animated as well with transitions. We also used jQuery for the drop-down menus and for the selection process. We also gave the user the ability to search specific places or empires with another drop-down menu, and that highlights the selected empire. As you can see on the right in green, we chose green for the empires. We've kept that consistent throughout the whole chart. So after we extended what he did, what Priestley did, we want to give the user more analytical tools and kind of expand his work. And the first step to doing that was to link it to a geographic map, because you can look at a chart, but without really being able to visualize where all these places are, it's kind of hard to analyze the history behind the actual timeline. So we linked this map to it, as well as his original text, which if you click on a place on the chart or on the map, it will open up to the page that he talks about that particular place. Again, we match the colors, so it makes it easier for the user to see, okay, the green selection up top is the empire, that's the Roman Empire, and the green on the map is also where the Roman Empire controlled during that time. Yeah, and I hope to have some time at the end to do a demo, so I could do a little live demo at the end. We also started to add some graphs using high charts, and with this, we used a new method for bringing in selections. You can just click on some on the right, on the left, and then they'll show up, and then you could click on them on the right, and they'll take them out. This was really good for comparing the rise and fall of different empires, but you might notice that the information about particular places is all congregated, and you don't really see which places were controlled by that empire. So it's good for seeing the overall trends of, okay, the Roman Empire was in control at this time, and then they kind of fell, the Vandals took over, and then they fell, and the English took over, and seeing those trends, this provided a good way to do that. We also wanted to give the option to explore the places a little deeper. So we said you could choose 5 places, and then the first version of this actually, it didn't account for time, and so as you can see, the first one selected, it says English, French, French, over and over again. That's actually Nova Scotia. And for the first version, that was all clumped together, but we wanted to show that transition. So the second version, we were able to show that transition in power. And so for this particular visualization, the word size is proportionate to the number of years in power, and it also has a tooltip for you to hover over and see if it's hard to see like which regime it is. You can hover and you can see the years as well. So I saved some time for some demos, which is the fun part. So this is the, can you see that? No. Do I have to do what? Oh, exit PowerPoint. I was going to switch the display settings. Here we go. All right. So this is the actual chart, the timeline. The hover, that's the tooltip. You can zoom in. So if you're curious what's happening at a certain place, at a certain time, you can zoom and pan around. And so if you make a selection, it zooms into the map, and this reloads at the correct page. These were this is a spark lines graph that shows the rise and fall of empires. And it just shows all of them when you load it up. But you can select certain ones in here, and it will display them. And this is the same idea, only on a line graph, and they're all plotted on the same axes. And we found this particular transition between the English, or the Romans, sorry, the Vandals and the English particularly interesting, so we left that as a kind of a template example. But you could also just select whichever ones you want. And this is the same chart, only with the place selection. So when you click certain places, it's kind of like the same row. It's just reinterpreted in words at the bottom. And you could hover over and see the exact years. And as I mentioned before, this was the first time where it wasn't, this was the first attempt where we didn't account for transitions from English to French and then back again. It was all just clumped together. So here's filtering. It just brings in the blinders and focuses the eye a little bit more. And you could filter by a certain region at the same time as well. And then you can search. And a lot of this was already covered, is covered in, we have a tour that kind of talks about what the timeline is and what the different, like the places and all of the empires and how that works too, and how the selection works. We have some GIFs to walk you through that as well if you want to show a friend or share this with anybody. I had an acknowledgements page, but I closed my presentation, so that's it.
Anybody have questions? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. At this point, it's more of just an open playground to explore that time in history. We're thinking about, at some point, possibly kind of narrating a story, but that's really up to Daniel Rosenberg, our historian who did most of his work on Priestley, and at this point, we're just doing a development and an open exploration of that time. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you populate the search? Is that just all the
Yeah, pretty much. We took it was actually a JSON, a GeoJSON, and we just iterated through that and then added to it a list and gave them all a deed so you could select. Yeah. There was a lot of customization options, and it was pretty easy to change your colors and to plug your data in. And it was interactive. The tooltips and stuff just came pre-programmed into it, so it's a pretty cool JavaScript library. Just because we wanted to just play with other stuff as well. Yeah.
Any other questions? Or we can talk to all of the speakers at the end as well. Thank you.